Hello, I'm alone in Finland. This is EVE Online, and I'd like to go through some tutorials and things like that with you. So the first one up on today's chopping block is transiting lowsec pipelines. So these are routes between high-sec trade hubs. Now, if we have a look on the map very quickly, you can see that I am in Jita at the moment, and I have a route set to take me down to Heck. I sort of live around about this area, so I regularly make trade runs up to Jita and sell off some stuff and then come back down, usually selling off loot from missions and things like that. Now, these systems here are particularly dangerous because they are the main sort of route between these two systems, and you get sort of gate campers and gankers and all sorts of piratey people in these systems, and they will happily kill anybody that comes through when they're online. So there's a couple of safety things that you can do. Now, in this case, most people would say, well, just change your route to high-sec. And if we look, the route for high-sec adds on a lot of jumps. So it's 19 jumps between these two systems if you're going through high-sec, and it is 9 jumps without. So under half the distance. So for a lot of people, that could just be enough. However, if you go the high-sec route, you go through Udema, and Udema is ganker capital. There is tons and tons of people who will kill any sort of industrial ship, and they scan almost every ship that goes through there at sometimes, because that's what they do. That's how they get their jollies. They want to kill people, possibly steal their loot. Sometimes just want to kill people. And it's something that you have to be aware of if you're doing a sort of transiting, is where the ganker systems are. Now, there are systems all over the place for different things, but these are two of the main ones, because this is sort of coming down south here is your main pipeline towards the southern regions. So there is a lot of people transit this area, and Udema is around about here somewhere. So that is where a lot of ganking happens in general in the system. In the routes. So you have to be aware of that if you're making those routes, that it's safer than going low sec, but it's not safe. So around about this, I would say within a few jumps of Udema, just do not go on autopilot. You have to go gate to gate. And if you're carrying if you're taking something like, for instance, a freighter load of stuff, avoid that area as much as possible. Taking a freighter through there is just asking for trouble. If we have a look at yesterday, it's early in the morning today on the 11th, but yesterday in Udema, so when you're having a look at a Talos is a ship that would have been used to kill something larger. So for instance, a freighter, they would usually get ganked with the Talos. So this is a whole load of people who have lost their ships there. There you have one. So at 4:09 somebody lost a freighter. That's gonna be painful. 4.8 billion in one hit. But if we go through the days, you can see that here we go, blockade runner, just like mine, that's been taken out. And you will, but anytime people take these ships through, then you will get constant ganking. And this, for a high-sec system, this is a lot of kills in a day. This is everything that happened on a Monday. So not exactly a heavy player day. And we are going through pages and pages of stuff. Again, still January the 8th, still 7 o'clock in the afternoon. And these are all the catalysts and another freighter that's been taken out. So that sort of shows you exactly how dangerous it can be passing through these things. But for small cargo runs, if you're taking a small, or you want to take a small freighter through, now I would recommend you take a cloaky through at all times. That's what the blockade runners were designed for. But with a little bit of skill and using the right timings, you could also take another type of freighter through. However, again, it is still potluck what you get. So some tricks on doing this. Let's start with the easiest version, which is the cloaky. So we have a blockade runner here, and I'm going to show you the route. So if we undock, we're going to go through a couple of high-sec systems. So we're going to jump to perimeter, then a nostra, Valorant, and then finally we it's disappeared in the loading screen. The final high-sec system is going through on Becky, and then we get into the low-sec systems. When you come out of Jita, what I would recommend, I would always recommend jumping away the second you undock, because so many people will pop you, scan you and pop you if you've got cargo, because their alt can pick up the cargo, and that's something that if you've got a freighter, you want to have a bookmark 400 kilometers or longer in front of the station. Set that up in advance, and the second you come out, jump straight to it in a direct line straight in front of the exit point, so that you come out with the velocity of warp and you can just immediately jump there. Now for this low sec run, what we would do normally is we would set up bookmarks, and I'll go through setting up that bookmark on the first system, but I have them already set up, so it's not something that I require. Now when you're initially doing it, if you're not doing it with a cloaky, what you want to do is you want to get those bookmarks set up in general with a cheap ship. So you want a clone that has no implants in it, because you probably get popped, and you want to use something cheap and fast. So a frigate, put in some inertial stabilizers. Here you got the inertial stabilizers, so drop in some inertial stabilizers just so you can align fast. And then as you see here, I've just fitted the largest shield modules that I can fit, so that's a large shield extender and then some resistance amplifiers. It goes much the same on the frigate if you're going to set up your bookmarks, but don't go for expensive stuff. You are expecting to lose this ship. If you're spending more than 5 million on the ship, then it's sort of wasting your money, because it is a throwaway ship. You're intending to lose it, and you might lose a couple of these setting it up, but once you've got your bookmarks in place, you can do a lot. So jump into the last system. Now on this last system, there will be a scout in it, almost always for the pirates. So immediately, if you're running a cloaky, hit your cloak as you warp into the gate. They will usually have their intel person sat on this gate, cloaked, and just watching what comes through it, so they've got a rough idea of what's coming in. And that is also where some of the problems come. So as you can see there, I am clicking jump to when I'm initiating warp, but I'm also hitting jump on the gates just to get that extra sort of quick snap of jump in case Eve takes a little bit longer than you expect. Now that we're in low sec, we are cloaked. We've got 30 seconds to do something. We've got our gate timer going. 43 seconds. Oh, it's a minute now. Oh, okay. So we've got a minute to do something, which is now down to about 30 seconds for me because I'm talking. And what I want to do is I'm setting up the route, is I want to look where the route is, and I want to warp to within 100. If I've got a cloak, immediately activating the cloak. So when you're doing this, you want to have a shorter line time. But if you're doing this in an industrial, which is what a blockade runner is, although it's a Tech 2 one, you want to use that cloak as quickly as possible to sort of get around any issues. So I've warped to 100 off. Now that is not a good distance, because a micro jump drive can throw somebody out here very quickly, and if I'm not cloaked, they'd know that I'm here. So what you then want to do is you want to bring up your locations and add a bookmark right where you are. So we now have a bookmark of this spot. Then you want to pick somewhere that is not in line with where you came from. So we came from Valorant, so I'm going to have a look around about here, and there's a couple of stations up there, so I'm just going to warp to one of them at 100. You could also do the sun, but there's a reason that we're doing this. You want to be off that center line when you put your bookmark down. So you warp out to your station, and then you warp back into your bookmark at 100, and that will give you a safe place to look at the gate and see what's there before you decide what to do. So now all I'm doing is going to locations, spot in the system, and warp to 100. I'm also very confused because... Oh, because I'm still in 0.5, sorry. But this is a good place to do it and a good example to do it. So, we're not in lowsec yet. I am one away. But so you would come back in as you're setting up your stuff. And now what we've got, if you zoom out and have a look through the gate. Oh, there we go. We have a point that is 200 away that is not in a direct straight line with the celestial object. So somebody warping away to that object and warping back in, sort of if they're using this read to do or they happen to know where this scan thing is, they won't land on you, they will land slightly off you. And one of the things that people would do to try and catch you is two people would warp away to this, one will warp back in at 100, the second one would warp back in at 100, and then that's how they would sort of get somebody to you fairly quickly if you're just sort of hovering there and waiting. Again, if you want to think about it this way, in Eve, if you're not moving, you're pretty much dead unless you're cloaked. So you always want to try and move somewhere and have some sort of plan when you're doing this. But from this point, what we can do is we can take this location that we've got and we can remove the original one, add a new location, and now we are... I need to look around because I've sort of forgotten where I am. So when we add this location, we can put in Sierra. Oh, Sierra. I can't pronounce that. I've always pronounced it Sierra, and my brain can now never change that. So Sierra Eyes is what I would call it. And you never want it to disappear. So now you have a spot that is 200 away. Now, if you're setting this up and you're taking a bit of time to do it in advance, then what I would actually do is to move further away. So you want it about 250, because as I mentioned, with people warping out and warping back, there could be the chance that there's a disconnect or something like that. And if you're 250 away, that's not a normal sort of jumping distance. That's a good place to be away. It needs to be over 150 kilometers, because the plan is to come to the gate, so come to your warp point for eyes and then see what's on the gate and what you can deal with. Once you know it's clear, you can jump through. Now, you don't know what's on the other side. So the plan on the other side is to warp as fast as possible. Now for me, I've got the cloaky there. For a normal ship or something that's not Tech 2 and you don't have the ability to fit a covert ops cloak, because remember you can't warp with a normal cloak, you then want to just hit warp and have a good setup in the bottom to be able to get away and to avoid any sort of anybody locking you. There's something that just happened there as I was talking about this. I'll go through that as well. Just there you saw I hit jump when I warped to the gate, but it didn't jump when I landed, and that's why you always hit jump a second time the second you land. Now what we're doing, that we're through the system, we are having a look about, so you know how to set up a bookmark now. What I would do is just sort of bounce between the two systems, the two gates, come slightly off of the gate, and then set up your bookmark so that on both gates they are unaligned. If you look in here, I've got eyes for both of the gates that I'm going through. We're heading to Rancer now, so I'm going to hit warp. I'm immediately hitting my cloak because I'm flying an industrial, so I'm cloaked up within less than half a second from actually initiating warp, so there's so little time for them to catch me. But I'm also not warping to the gate, and I'm not warping straight to the gate. Now, another technique that they use down here in lowsec space is smart bombing. What they'll do is they'll get a whole load of ships, they'll put smart bombs on them. It's kind of pipe bombing if you have a look at Rooks and Kings videos about pipe bombing, but it's not jumping in. So what they'll do is they will set up 20 kilometers off a gate in line with the other gate, and as you warp in, as you start to decelerate and warp, even though you've warped directly to the gate, you will still pass through them at that 20 kilometers out, and you're going slow enough that you will take damage, and they will be pulsing enough smart bombs to kill the maximum EHP that you could fit on the ship, because remember, they've had eyes on your ship before you've come through the system, or they might just be set up to kill a good sized ship. I, in this particular ship, have been popped going through Rancer before, so we've checked there's nobody around, we're going to jump to it. And that's the whole point of the off-center bookmark, is that you will warp to that. You might see the smart bombs, but you can also warp past them because they'll be in a line with the gate and you're not in a line with the gate. So that's how that section's going. Now, another method to this, another little extra tip on this, is the time that you're doing it. So I am doing this at 9:18 in the morning game time, which is 11:18 in the morning where I am, because I'm in Finland. So there's not many people online this time before downtime. The main player base for EVE Online is actually Americans, and obviously this is middle of the night for them. So that's actually why downtime was sort of picked around about that time. I did forget to hit warp there, but it did do to hit jump there, but it did do it automatically. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that one time it doesn't, you know it will be the worst time. But yeah, so I'm transiting this at a specific quiet time. So I know that there's less chance of doing it, and I could probably get away with going gate to gate, which if I wasn't making a video, I absolutely would. But at the same time, that is entirely how I lost a ship. When I was coming through at a quiet time, there just happened to be, it was one person running 6 accounts, and he was just pulsing smart bombs on 6 different ships. And he just happened to get lucky and catch me because I was shifting stuff at that time. So it is safer to move it at the quieter times, but safer is not safe. There we go. We are at our bookmark. We can have a look around about. There is nothing there. We are heading into Alto. So again, I'm hitting jump as I'm hitting towards the thing. That'll warp me to 0 and then initiate the jump. But also, the second I land, I'm also hitting jump. There you go. It didn't do it initially. It hit approaching. And the extra one is sort of giving it an extra kick to work a bit faster. It's just some little problems occasionally. They keep the game interesting, but you have to be aware of them. So now we're in Alto, and again, heck gate eyes, I'm warping to 0. I'm also keeping an eye on local. At the moment there's only one person in local, so I could get away with jumping straight to the gate because I know that one battleship can't put out enough smart bombing to be able to kill me. Because of the amount of EHP I've got on this particular ship. If we take a quick look at it, I've got resists where the lowest is 65, I've got 36,000 EHP. So that's not too bad. That should be able to survive a single hit from a battleship. Which is exactly why we've got this. But it's always a good idea, just in case, to play it safe. So this is the lowsec pipe route between Heck and Jita. And again, this is at the quiet time. If you come through here at sort of 8 o'clock in the evening, you are going to see so many things. Also, if you want to just watch how they do it, come out here in the colloquy and sit in Rancer. You'll be able to see the guys doing what they do. If you do it at sort of high population time, sort of 8 o'clock in the evening, or 10 o'clock in the evening, you will see a whole load of pirates on this route, and it's kind of interesting to watch how they do what they do. Especially for a newbie, I would say it's must view sort of experience, but try not to be caught in it as you do it. So that's the main route, and that's the main route done in a shiny ship. But what if you've got something that's not so shiny? So I'll show you an industrial and how we would do it in an industrial to make it a bit safer for the industrial. But again, a bit safer is not safe. And another little tip, just while I'm bringing this, I have managed to grab one of my ships, which was set up for doing this, and there is offline modules on it. Now, this is because an update has changed something since the last time I used this ship. and it's changed the specs on the ship. So it's always good to have a look. Make sure you check if your modules are online, especially after updates, or if you've been away for the game a while and updates might have happened, to make sure that your fit still works, because this one doesn't. And I can't use the micro warp drive that I usually did. So I'll adjust it slightly and then we'll continue. So I've adjusted this now slightly, and it's not exactly what I'd be comfortable with. I'd probably be better reducing the shield extender and putting on an oversized micro warp drive, but this is what I'm going to run with for this example. Now, what I've done here, essentially, we have our inertial stabilizers. We're not using nanofiber because we might need the extra EHP that you get from the structure, because if we're going to get attacked, it's gonna hurt. So we're using inertial stabilizers over nanofibers, which just mean that we can align faster but we don't get any speed bonuses. We are using the damage control because that ups the resists in everything all the way through, but it also gives us resists in our structure, so giving us quite a big boost of EHP. If I put this into simulate, I can show you. We're essentially getting 4,000 extra EHP on a 32,000 ship, so that's a good bonus. We've got a large shield extender on this because I want as much in the top shield as possible. So from having 2,700 shield, we've now got 7,600 shield, and then we've got a couple of passive modules and then a multi-spectrum shield hardener, or an invul as they used to be called. So this will give us massive boost to the shield resistance, and the point is we want to tank damage. Now, you don't want to be tanking damage for long. I am talking 10 seconds, enough to get through the gate. But this is one of the methods. The other method requires having the same tank, but you want to put in a whole load of... I was going to say you want to put in a whole load of warp core stabilizers, but I've just noticed that you can only fit one warp core stabilizer to it. So with this particular ship, that means that you get a +2 strength to your warp core stabilization, which means that you can run away from a warp disruptor, 2 warp disruptors, or a scrambler. However, there are certain ships that are fitted that get bonuses to that. So for instance, if you come up against this particular ship, which is a Malice Navy issue, it actually has a bonus to warp core stabilizer strength. So if you are using just a Federation Navy warp scrambler and you've got this bonus, instead of 2 you've got 5 warp scramble strength, which means that even a blockade runner, or some of the ships that have a +2 to warp core strength, this would be able to lock them down. It's the reason I've got this particular ship set up for messing about in faction warfare, because nothing can escape from it, although it might not be the best hitter. So it's something to keep an eye on. Is it's better to be able to run than it is to be able to sort of slip through in this instance for this particular thing. That's why I would prefer to have an oversized micro warp drive. Again, if we simulate this ship and show it, if you were to have the 50 attached to this, you'd have to have a lower shield extender, but your top navigation speed goes up to 1,119 meters per second instead of the 293 meters per second we're getting off of this one. That's a trade-off, and it's a personal decision to look at. Now that we've said that, we want to take this ship through lowsec. For this, for me, all I'm carrying with me is the cargo expanders and the medium compact capacitor, which is, I don't even know why that's there. That might have been for something else, so I'll get rid of that. But the cargo expanders is what I would swap out for these when I'm actually moving some heavier stuff. Again, you're losing a bit of capacity on this because of the fact that you're not setting up for full cargo, you're setting up for movement, but that's the trade-off you have to make when you're moving these things through lowsec. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to set up, I'm just putting in Jita as our target. Now we are throwing out our shield hardener straight away, and I'm going to reconfigure this right away. I don't really need, I don't know why there's a Galante miner on. We are jumping. And from heck, you're going into auto, so you're immediately hitting lowsec space. So we are straight away at danger. Bringing up our location, and we'll go mirror to gate eyes and warp into that. And what we're doing is we are pulsing our micro warp drive. So the idea behind that is that it might get you aligned slightly faster. It worked a bit better with the other one, but what you want is a short micro warp drive pulse that will bring you up to speed, and then when it stops, you will be going faster than the threshold for entering warp. So that's the idea behind the micro warp drive, is you want to pulse it just to give you that quick boost in speed. But also, if you get properly caught, again the gate is clear so we can go through, but it's also a chance, and especially at high population time in the evening, there's probably going to be eyes around about one of these gates, so they might know you're coming. So this is just to sort of avoid those smart bombs that you would run into if you were going gate to gate. But with that, we are going again. So now we are going to rancer, warp to 0, again immediately turning on the hardener and pulsing our micro warp drive. The micro warp drive has gone off and we've entered. Now the micro warp drive pulsing isn't actually working on this particular ship because it's aligning so fast. If we just have a look at the statistics for it while I am jumping to the gate, there's nobody on the gate, there's nobody up in the overview here, so we're all good. But if you have a look at my align time, it's 4.11 seconds, which is actually about as fast as my blockade runner is set up for. Although the blockade runner, again, it has the cloaking device, so its time for people to be able to catch it is a lot lower than this. 4 seconds is a time that most people can do. So we're now in Rancer and we're heading for Sierra Leone. So again, I'm warping to my eyes. This time I'm not going to pulse the thing. Yep, we're getting in too fast, so the micro warp drive trick for this isn't really working. So if in this case, what I would actually do is I'd still keep that micro warp drive on, because it might be a case that you have to run for something. But the other option with it is to just put more tank in to survive somebody attacking you while you move somewhere. Again, a micro warp drive turns off with a scrambler, so an afterburner might be a better idea. But it's sort of each to their own when it comes to this. Everybody's got a different method, and all methods could work in different situations. I prefer having a bit of tank because I come across smart bombers so much, which is fair play to them. If that's what they want to do, that's fair play. It's just knowing somebody's tactics and trying to estimate the best response for any particular tactic. So now we're in Sierra Leone, and our next system is lowsec. But again, even though it looks like Saviour is so close, I'm still going to warp to the safe spot. The reason I'm still going to warp to the safe spot is because you could have smart bombers on the last one and be so close but so far. Now if we also have a look up here, I think it's this one. There is one system in this route where there's a station that is one of the pirate stations right off of the gate. It's about 1,000 and something off of the gate. This is one. So these guys can actually see you from their station. So in this case, it's a case of you need to be fast. When you hit this bookmark, I would warp to this bookmark as far out as possible to minimize the align time to the gate, because they might see you coming and immediately undock. However, if they have seen you coming on their alt ship, they might be there smart bombing already, and in this case you will warp around them. So you warp to the thing, quickly align around about them and be able to get in. but that means that on the way back they know roughly where your thing is, and they might adjust for you personally. So I've just aligned to the wrong gate there. Now I'm in high sec. I'm just going to bump through because you can't use smart bumps in high sec. So we are clear all the way through to the system, but again we're not safe, and especially once you get into Jita. Coming off of the gates, there are all sorts of gankers that might have scanned you, have looked at you on the way in, and decide that your cargo is worth them sacrificing a couple of ships, because they can sacrifice a ship and their all can come in and scoop the loot and run. It's not a difficult thing to do. So this is the sort of generalized way around about this. I would highly advise that you set this up if you're planning on making these routes. There's also the other, you've got Rennes, Amar and other trade hubs that have quicker routes that go through lowsec. So it's always good to have a look at your route if you're planning on doing this. Just put a little foresight into it, because you might spend a session setting up these bookmarks, but once you've got them for the rest of your playtime, and they are good to have. And also, personally, I think it's really funny when you jump around them and you can take the piss, because they really don't like it. Some of them are great guys, they just happen to choose a horrifying thing to do with their time. But other people get really salty about it, and it's just, it's beautiful. So, something to think about. Hope that helps somebody out there. And if you've got more tips in the comments and things like that, I'd love lots of comments and love lots of feedback. If you've got any tips, tricks, or just general other things that you think about, I'd love to know about them, because even if I do know, I might have forgotten. Even if I don't know, then new knowledge is good knowledge. I got some lovely feedback off the last couple of videos where people are giving us some great tips on how to do this, that, and the next thing. And some of them I had forgotten about, and some of them I just didn't know at all. There was a fantastic one to do with if you want to run into wormholes, and you take some abyssal filaments. It means that you can go really deep down a wormhole, but then come back within 20 minutes, because you activate the abyssal filament, the Poshman filament, jump into Poshman, wait out your 15-minute timer, and then jump back into high sec. And it's a quick way to get back if you want to do some wormholing. So, with that all being said, thanks for watching, thanks for paying attention to this, and I hope it helps you. Bye!